How are we doing, ladies and gentlemen? Hope you all enjoyed your Super Bowl Sunday. I personally am not a big football fan, but I know a lot of you guys are. But now that football season is over, we can focus on the NBA. And it's an exciting week in the NBA because we've got the All-Star break this week, which is good for the Bulls because they only have 2 games this week before having a week off to give the guys some rest. And of course, buy a little more time for the players who are currently injured. And with the Bulls on a 3-game winning streak and going up against 2 teams that are near the bottom of the Western Conference in both the Spurs and the Kings, the Bulls have a strong shot of heading into the All-Star break with a 5-game winning streak. And I've said before, a much needed time to stack wins against bad teams when you're shorthanded as we near closer to the expected date for guys like Lonzo and Caruso to return. So in today's video, I'll be going over the games ahead for this week, keys to each game, what to expect, and I'll share my thoughts on the latest regarding the injury, or the news anyway, to Zach Lavine. Also a huge shout out to the newest sponsor of this channel that I am very excited to share with you guys, BetUS, but more on that in a little bit. So what's going on, everyone? You're listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Now, before I get into the games this week, I did want to start with the recent news that was shared yesterday regarding Zach Lavine and his lingering knee injury. Now, I'm sure most of you have probably seen it by now that Zach is going to be traveling to Los Angeles to see a specialist on the knee that he initially had injured at the start of that game against the Warriors, where he did not return and ended up missing a handful of games after that as a result. Now, an initial MRI had indicated that there was not any structural damage to his knee, which was a huge relief to the Bulls and all their fans, given we all know too well seeing a player come down on a knee like that with no contact. But really, ever since that injury, since Zach returned to the court, he just hasn't looked the same. He's obviously still looked good, and by the numbers, he's still putting up impressive stats for normal player standards, right? But for Zach Lavine, an all-star, he's not as elite as we're used to seeing him play. And of course, the back spasms have been a part of that. That was another injury that kept him out for a game. But I think, the thing that has me worried about this is that despite the fact that the initial MRI showed no structural damage, it doesn't mean that if he plays or he continues to play and experience pain on that knee after coming back maybe a little too early, that some damage can still be done in the future. Now, because Zach is traveling to LA, he likely is going to be out until after the All-Star break. It was already confirmed that he'll be out for tonight's game, and I highly doubt he'll be available for the game against the Kings on Wednesday. And I wouldn't be shocked either if he decides to sit out in playing the All-Star game. And to be honest, I really hope that he does. Like, the last thing you want for him is to play in a meaningless game, all but to cause further damage to that knee. And yeah, I get it. It's an honor to play in an All-Star game. It means a lot to the players. But by sitting out, it doesn't mean you lose your All-Star selection. That still remains. Like, if Lavine is determined to be fully healthy and the second opinion on his knee still shows no structural damage and he's cleared to play by doctors, then fine, sure, it's great that he plays. But if there is any doubt at all as to his health, he should sit. And for the love of God, I really hope he's okay. I don't think we can take another injury to this team, especially to one of our best players. It would just be absolutely devastating. So hopefully we hear some good news regarding Lavine in the coming days. But as I said, we can expect him to be out until after the All-Star break. Now, let's talk about the games for this week, which, given the fact that the league will be going into the All-Star weekend starting on Friday, the Bulls only have 2 games, as I mentioned. They'll be playing the San Antonio Spurs, and then on Wednesday against the Sacramento Kings. So let's start with tonight's game against the Spurs, which, if you'll remember, the Bulls just recently played against San Antonio, and the Spurs got the best of them by really taking over in the second half. And I said in my post-game video that this was a simple matter of Billy Donovan getting out-coached by Greg Popovich. But in any event, we know that this Spurs team, although yes, one of the bottom teams in the East, they're inexperienced, they're still young and a talented team, and still coached by one of the greatest coaches of all time, and for that reason, they cannot be underestimated. And unlike the Bulls, the Spurs are fully healthy. However, despite all of that though, the Bulls are still favored to win this one with a 5.5 on the money line, which leads me into our latest sponsor that is giving out, guys, an incredible offer exclusive to this channel, and that's BetUS.com. Now, with the biggest sporting event of the year behind us in the Super Bowl, that paves the way for all the opportunities going in to the end of the NBA season and postseason. And because of that, you need a sportsbook with integrity and longevity like BetUS. BetUS has been pioneers in sportsbook industry for almost 3 decades, thriving and paying their loyal customer base. That is BetUS.com. And guys, They have loads of bonuses when you sign up. By joining, you receive a 125% sign up bonus using the code BULLSCENTRAL. Guys, it's basically getting free money just to try out their platform. They have re-up and referral bonuses as well. BetUS is known as America's favorite sportsbook for a lot of reasons. BetUS has all of your NBA and NHL games with teams and player props. You can bet on UFC matches, PGA, golf, and roundup matches, and live betting on most sporting events, including golf. The online casino has hundreds of games, and the racebook has all the horse tracks that you need. They have every bet type imaginable, and the Sharp BetUS mobile platform is easy with full betting options. So get your phone, online, and social sports betting partner with integrity and longevity like I did. Bet.us.com. You bet, you win, you get paid. Bet.us, the link to that site and the code can be found in the description. And listen, even though the Bulls are shorthanded tonight without Zach Lavine and likely without Javonte Green, I think the Bulls are going to come up with a win in front of their home crowd, but I do think it is going to be a close one. So with the money line at 5.5, I personally would take the Spurs, at least on the money line in this one, given the fact that the Bulls winning by more than 6 is probably going to be a bit of a challenge. That being said, though, I personally would take the Spurs in this one, as the Bulls winning by more than 6 might be a bit of a challenge. But that being said, though, the over-under on this is 235.5, and with the Bulls, the way that they've been playing offense recently, and with the Spurs putting up over 130 points on us last time, I personally would take the over on this one. But don't just listen to me, do your research, and guys, please bet responsibly. Like, I know I'm promoting a sports book, but it should be done for entertainment purposes only. Anyway, though, as for the keys to this game, I mean, I know it sounds kind of obvious, but Billy Donovan needs to be on top of his game in-game adjustments like Popovich is. Like, the Bulls should have won the last game. Despite not having Lonzo and Caruso, they were playing well, the big three played well, and Popovich made adjustments in the second half that enabled the Spurs to take over in the third quarter, and they never looked back. Now, DeJounte Murray, who was named an all-star reserve for the injured Draymond Green, he's got to be the Bulls' biggest target, given the fact that he torched the Bulls in the last game for 29, 12, and 9 on 50% shooting. Now, Ayo has really been getting better and learning more with every passing game. And in this one, he needs to do everything in his power to lock down Murray. And this also ties into Vucevic because the Spurs torched the Bulls on the pick and roll game between Murray and Jakob Poeltl. Vucevic needs to be reading those picks, rolling with his man. Ayo needs to be fighting through those screens and deflecting passes inside. If you can limit their inside game, then the Bulls should be in good shape to win this one. Now, the other challenge is the Bulls were terrible at defending the perimeter in the last game, which they kind of have been without Caruso and Ball in general. But the Spurs, who are one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the league, lit up the Bulls, going 16 for 37 from 3. That cannot happen, especially when it's a team that doesn't do well from behind the arc. And I think the Bulls coaching staff didn't really put enough emphasis at guarding the perimeter because the Spurs aren't a good three-point shooting team, but you still cannot take them lightly. They can still get hot from behind the arc. Oh, and by the way, guys, I will be having a live chat for this game tonight, but because it's Valentine's Day and my wife has been putting up with me putting so much time into the channel, I will not be doing a post-game video tonight after the game. I still will be watching the game, but I'll have my post-game video out tomorrow morning as I'm going to spend the evening with my wife. Hope you guys can understand that. Now, as far as the game against the Kings on Wednesday, the final game before heading into the All-Star break, this one is going to be interesting because although everyone was up in arms, including myself, about the Kings trading Tyrese Haliburton and Buddy Hield for Domantas Sabonis, they have kind of looked pretty good since making that trade. Obviously, that's an incredibly small sample size, like it's literally been 2 games, but they've won both of those games. And the duo of De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis has looked really good thus far. I mean, as much as we give the Kings a hard time for trading away an up-and-coming talent in Haliburton, which rightfully so, and I think in the long run they'll regret it, but Sabonis is still an all-star level player. Now, this will be the first time that the Bulls have seen the Kings this season, and it's going to be another tough game for Dosunmu, who's going to need to guard the opposing team's best player and scorer, and in this instance, it's De'Aaron Fox. Now, Fox has been a little underwhelming this season, and I think that's part of the reason why the Kings fans were so up in arms that they really chose to prioritize Fox over Haliburton. Fox has really struggled overall with his efficiency this season, but he's still averaging over 21 points per game, 5 assists, and 1.2 steals, with a solid assist to turnover ratio. And he's going to be your primary focus on offense between his scoring and facilitating, which makes it such an important assignment for Ayo. Now, the real challenge I see for the Bulls in this one, aside from De'Aaron Fox, is the Kings' size. The Bulls, historically speaking, have not done that well against Sabonis, partially because the Bulls don't have a true power forward, and if Javonte is also going to be out of the lineup for that one, it becomes even a bigger challenge, because at that point, who is going to be guarding Sabonis? And you might say, well, it would just be Vucevic in that instance. Well, then who's going to guard Richaun Holmes? A guy I really wanted the Bulls to trade at the trade deadline for, by the way. Holmes is having one of the best seasons of his career. And then you have Harrison Barnes, who isn't a big man per se, but outside of Vucevic, he's bigger than any other player on the Bulls. Like, that's how small this Bulls team is. Granted, guys like Derrick Jones Jr. and Javonte Green, they play a lot bigger than their listed heights because of their wingspans and their verticals, but still, going up against a team that is starting Harrison Barnes, Domantas Sabonis, and Holmes in the front court versus the Bulls and Vucevic, hopefully Javonte Green if he's available to play by then, and DeRozan. The Bulls are really going to have to work that small ball game, which they've done well this season, but it's also come to bite them at times against bigger teams. All that being said though, as far as my predictions for this week, despite Lavine likely being out for the week, potentially Javonte Green, I still think with the hometown crowd behind the guys, the fact that the Bulls are still overall more talented and experienced than both of these teams, and the fact that the Bulls have the fourth quarter assassin who has just been straight up on a mission this season to DeMar DeRozan, I still think the Bulls will win both of these games and go into the break on a 5-game winning streak. I want to know what you guys think though. Do you think the Bulls will win both of these games? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to sign up for BetUS using the promo code BullsCentral. The link to that can be found in the description. And guys, as always, be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I do post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.